Welcome, everyone, back to another episode of Parkinson's Policy Podcast, where we advocate to raise awareness toward a cure and advance meaningful policy for the Parkinson's community. From Washington, D.C., straight from the U.S. Capitol and beyond, we bring senators, representatives, researchers, and advocates to amplify the voices of people living with Parkinson's disease. My name is Dr. George Ackerman, Sharon's son from Together for Sharon. Also joined by my incredible co-host, Margaret Preston, the president of Power Over Parkinson's, and we're honored to have you all back for another very exciting episode and discussion on policy.
Absolutely. Thank you, George. I have the honor and privilege to introduce our next guest, Delegate Richard Sullivan, Jr. Graduated magna cum laude from Amherst College and received his law degree from the University of Virginia. He's a partner in the law firm Bean, Kinney and Corman, PC in Arlington. Since beginning in the General Assembly here in Virginia since 2014, he has passed meaningful legislation in many areas, including clean energy, gun violence prevention, support for electric vehicles, and supporting surrogacy for all. Having lived in McLean for over 50 years, McLean, Great Falls, Vienna, and the other parts of the 6th District have long been Delegate Sullivan's home. He lives with his wife, Beth, and they also have 4 adult children, and all of whom graduate from Fairfax County Public Schools. And he also has 6 grandchildren. Delegate Sullivan currently serves as the vice chair for the Labor and Commerce Committee, which considers bills related to labor, employment, energy, and business regulation in Virginia. He also serves as chair of the Labor and Commerce Committee's Energy Subcommittee, a role in which he has used his experience legislating in the energy space to help shape the way Virginia moves forward on these crucial issues. Currently, Delegate Sullivan serves on the Labor and Commerce Committee, the Courts of Justice Committee, the Rules Committee, and the Finance Committee. So Delegate Sullivan, thank you so much for being with us today, and I think we can all agree you're a busy guy.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's a busy time of year. In fact, I'll be back in Richmond the day after tomorrow. We have to reconvene and deal with actions that the governor has taken on a variety of bills that we've sent her. But yeah,
we appreciate you being here.
But I'm happy to make time for this. This is an enormously important topic.
Thank you again for joining us. Unfortunately, in a way, but also fortunately, this issue, policy today, and Parkinson's disease has affected both of us. It does continually, whether me because I lost my mother or Margaret because her father's still battling. I was wondering, we've had incredible guests who have been affected and some never even knew what Parkinson's was, and it's really so equally important to have everyone in this fight as a family. I was wondering if you could tell our audience a little bit about your background and if you are aware of Parkinson's and how. Obviously, we know a little bit more, but for the listeners, maybe that would also inspire them as you do us.
Terrible. Thank you, George. Margaret did a pretty good job on my background. I would say I put it this way: I knew about Parkinson's sort of just generally. There are a lot of famous people who have or who have had Parkinson's. Everyone remembers Muhammad Ali and, of course, Michael J. Fox. So I had I would call sort of a layperson's awareness of Parkinson's disease. It had never, at least to my knowledge, been in my family or anything like that. But now, 5 or 6 years ago, my wife Beth was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And so it obviously instantly became an area of intense interest to me. Beth, by the way, I should just say she's doing great. One of the things I'm sure your listeners and viewers know this. One of the things that they do know about Parkinson's, while there's no way to cure the disease, one thing they do know is that exercise is enormously helpful. Staying in shape, lots of exercise, keeping moving, is enormously helpful in slowing the disease. And Beth has jumped into that part of it, and is she always was into exercise, but now she's sort of an exercise fiend. She spins, she works out, she lifts, and she's also taken up boxing. And I joke with people that I'm probably the only guy who gave his wife a heavy bag for Christmas last year. Um, and I sometimes use those gloves with her, and I just worry about her missing in the middle, and knocking me out, because she's just in great shape, and she's a real fighter, and she has thrown herself into the Parkinson's community in the sense that she's working with a lot of groups like this one, uh, uh, trying to educate people about Parkinson's, trying to advocate with legislators nationally and on the state level about Parkinson's. And she is herself a medical professional. She's a nurse practitioner. So when I go to her doctor's appointments and the doctor starts talking about all the variety of medications and all the testing that's going on, the good news is she can explain it all to me later, because it can get very complicated. So that's the source of my interest. It's highly personal to me. Um, um, Beth and I are in this together. She has the disease, and I'm trying to help her. And I guess in the Parkinson's community, we call that I'm her caregiver, much as she hates that term. So that's how I got interested in it, and got her permission now 5 years ago to maybe it was 4 years ago to sort of go public with it, if you will, by introducing a resolution on the House floor in the Virginia House of Delegates, establishing World Parkinson's Day here in Virginia as an awareness raising effort. This kind of thing. When something like that, there is a World Parkinson's Day that's recognized worldwide, but a lot of states don't do it. A lot of states don't know about it. A lot of people don't know about it, and so this was an opportunity to sort of put a spotlight on what is unfortunately growing disease. I think I have this right, that it's the fastest growing neurological disease in the world. And more people need to know about it. More people are going to become affected by it, or their families or friends and loved ones. And so it's important to sort of spread the word and get people activated about it. There's a lot of good work going on, but as of now, there is no cure for Parkinson's. And people need to know what it is, how it works, what's going on, and how they can try to help. They can help the broader effort, and how they might be able to help people and their families or friends that they may know deal with the disease. So I'm a cheerleader for my wife, and trying to use my position to shine a light on this, so that more people can get involved, and hopefully we can put an end to this disease in our lifetime.
Thank you for being a voice for so many, and obviously we send our love and support from the whole show and the community to your wife. So thank you.
And I think she's lucky to have like you said, cheerleader and caregiver. So those are two great titles and important ones nonetheless. So yeah. I wanted to move Delegate Sullivan into HB 1375. That was a bill to ban paraquat here in the Commonwealth. You were directly involved with in terms of co-patroning the bill. I wanted to share with our listeners who don't know, it was tabled until 2027, which gives us another chance. So I wanted to ask your thoughts on what you believe will take to end the use of paraquat here in Virginia and get this passed.
Well, Margaret, as I said, I wasn't an expert, still not an expert, but I was sort of a novice in Parkinson's. But anyone listening can get online. It'll take you about 30 seconds of searching around to find that one thing that is very clear is a correlation between the use of paraquat and Parkinson's. And there's a lot of work going on around the world and around the country, and now in Virginia, to try to wean our farmers off of paraquat, which is a pesticide. And that's not to say that everyone who is exposed to paraquat gets Parkinson's. It's not the case that everyone who has Parkinson's must have been exposed to paraquat. There are lots of different theories as to why people develop Parkinson's disease. But there does seem to be a very clear correlation between exposure to paraquat and developing Parkinson's disease. And so I was thrilled to join forces with a young delegate named Nadarius Clark here in Virginia. And this year he introduced, and I was one of the chief co-patrons, as you said, HB 1375, which would make paraquat illegal in Virginia. And was very pleased when that moved out of subcommittee. It went to the agricultural committee, as I suggested. I mean, this is a pesticide, so it went to the agricultural committee because its ban would affect farmers here in Virginia. And subcommittee passed it, but then it sort of hit a roadblock in the full committee. And the full committee's action to table it was really an action that said, look, we're not sure about this. This is a new issue to us. Let's have Delegate Clark come back with this bill next year. And one of the first things I learned as a young legislator is that even the very best ideas can take a session or two or three to sort of marinate as more delegates, more members of the General Assembly come to understand the issue, as more advocacy can go on, and as more conversation between the stakeholders can happen to hopefully find common ground, and if possible, get to some sort of agreed path forward. In this case, Delegate Clark did a great job during this session of in this bill's sort of first go around, not only educating people but looking for some sort of middle ground. I think initially the agricultural community was very aware the bill as it was introduced would have sort of instantly overnight made paraquat illegal, and I think there was a sense that was moving too quickly. There might be people who'd already purchased this year's stock of paraquat, or farmers who didn't have a possible substitute. So Delegate Clark offered the full committee an amendment which would have sort of phased it in over a couple of years to make it less of a whiplash type of bill. And while I think that was attractive to some of the members of the committee, it wasn't quite enough to get it over the hump. So the committee opted to wait and give us more time to talk. But as I said, both with other legislators and with the agriculture community. And Nadarius and I have already talked about how we need to use these off months, because the General Assembly won't meet again to take up new legislation until January of 2027. Virginia is it's full-time work, but it's part-time legislature in the sense that we only meet for 6 or 8 weeks every year. And that's the beginning of every year. So we'll be back next January with a bill that looks a lot like 1375. I don't know what the new bill will look like. It'll depend on what the conversations are over the course of the next year. But I'm quite confident that we'll be back with a bill that takes another shot at finding a path forward to get paraquat out of Virginia, because the science seems pretty clear that if we can get paraquat out of Virginia, we're going to see fewer cases of Parkinson's in Virginia.
Thank you so much. We're definitely hopeful, and we'll continue to do the work kind of leading up to January.
We'll need your help.
I will be there. Thank you.
I know you will.
I think a lot of the issues are definitely awareness, even for anyone who might oppose such an incredible bill, in my opinion. But, what steps is Virginia taking to improve access also to specialized care? Because I know we're talking about banning toxins and things, but still, if that's not being passed or just still tabled, we have people still battling, as you know, Parkinson's. Is there any way to also reach underserved and rural communities who, again, I think even in South Florida, the biggest problem for our family was lack of awareness?
Well, George, you've made a great point, and frankly, the question candidly goes way beyond Parkinson's. Like a huge challenge we are facing in Virginia, and I don't think we are alone, as you suggested, Florida and other states. And unless we're talking about well, I can't even think of one. Every state I can think of has got urban areas and then lots and lots of rural areas. Virginia is a bigger state than people sometimes recognize. Most of Virginia is a rural state, and our biggest industry is agriculture here in Virginia. And we are very concerned as a legislature broadly with medical access in rural and other underserved parts of Virginia for all sorts of medical conditions, and of course that would include Parkinson's. And given this is not a partisan podcast, so I'll try to keep it so. But some decisions have been made in Washington over the course of the last year, which are going to have broad and, to my way of thinking, negative effects on healthcare in rural parts of the United States. And I know that to be the case in rural parts of Virginia. We have grave concerns about hospitals closing. When hospitals close, it makes it even harder to get physicians to practice in these in more rural and underserved areas. So we are looking for ways to I can't say fend off. We're not going to be able to fend off all of it, but to try to focus on the need to improve and extend our healthcare into areas of Virginia that currently are underserved, and I think are at great risk of becoming even more underserved. Hospitals closing and things like that. And to, for instance, incentivize physicians or other healthcare providers, nurse practitioners, physicians' assistants, to go and practice in areas that don't have enough doctors and physicians. And when you get down to more specific to Parkinson's, Beth and I live here in suburban Washington, D.C. Lots and lots of doctors around, but finding a physician who really understands Parkinson's, even in a major metropolitan area, can be hard. The field of neurology has lots of different subspecialties, but to find a movement disorder specialist can be very challenging, even in big urban areas. And so that gets magnified tenfold if you're living in a rural part of Virginia. I'm not banging on neurologists, but your average neurologist may not be as deep in the weeds on Parkinson's as a movement disorder specialist or other neurologists. And so it is a relatively small specialty for this is again from a layperson's perspective. It feels like it's a relatively small specialty for a disease that is so rapidly growing, and that was frustrating to us. We quite thankfully Beth has connected with a great team of physicians, and one in particular who is her principal movement disorder specialist, who's sort of a giant in the field and knows it very well, and he's on sort of the cutting edge of a lot of the research that's going on. But that's we're very privileged to be able to have that relationship, and I as a legislator, putting my legislator hat on now, recognize that this gentleman and his team are not available to most people, and so trying to find ways to incentivize physicians not only to go into those specialties but to practice in places where people can get to them is a real challenge, and that's something that can be solved next Thursday. That's a long-term challenge.
Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead, George.
Also following up on that, since you all have been doing so much work, literally both of you in your state, as somebody out of Virginia, just curious how state policy can also better support caregivers and families like yourself impacted by Parkinson's disease. And in addition, how can everyone listening in our community throughout the country also support all the work you're doing for this community as well?
Well, the real answer to that is more people need to meet Margaret Preston, and people like her, because there is I'm pleased to say, what appears to me at least, to be a growing advocacy community out there, typically fueled by either physicians who are in the field or families of people facing this challenge. Because again, I'll just speak for myself. As I said, I didn't really know what Parkinson's was until it touched me so closely. The other thing you find out when you start learning about Parkinson's it is, if you stopped 100 people on the street and asked them, what's Parkinson's, they would conjure up, Michael J. Fox, and they would describe it from the visual manifestations of the disease, whether that's tremors or other kinds of manifestations. But one thing you learn is that there's a lot that goes on with Parkinson's that you can't see, that isn't visible to someone who meets someone with Parkinson's, and that's the kind of thing that needs a lot more education, both from a advocacy perspective and from an education perspective, to teach people how difficult this disease is for those who have it, but also from a diagnostic perspective, in the sense that most people, again, as I understand, this is my layperson's view, most people get diagnosed with Parkinson's. Whoever does that diagnosis will tell you that they have had it for some number of years before the kind of outward manifestations start showing themselves. So I think there's a lot of education that needs to go on so that people might know some of those other symptoms and such, that so that we can get diagnoses earlier in the process, so that we can maybe do some preventive work, get, as I said, like in Beth's case, do a lot of exercise and other things that can try to slow things down. There's no stopping it, but you can try to slow it down.
Yeah.
So I keep coming back to education and groups like this, podcasts like this. People need to really understand how this is such a growing population of people. It's a real challenge. It breaks my heart when I see funding being cut at the national level for research. I'm heartened that groups are out there, whether it's Michael J. Fox or the Parkinson's Foundation, there are a lot of them that are still raising money and funding research. And while this is much more than just a fundraising challenge, the fact is, in order to keep all this good research going on, we do need to make sure that can get funded. So from a public policy perspective, while most of these types of grants come from national, the NIHs of the world, I'm always looking for opportunities to see if Virginia can help there in our hospitals and places like that, where we can do Virginia's part to try to beat this disease.
Absolutely. Delegate Sullivan, you hit the nail on the head, and it's something that, we at Power Over Parkinson's, I know George, in honor and memory of his mother, are so passionate about, is awareness and education and teaching that the disease is so much more. Well, there's a significant group of folks who have a tremor, of course, and a tremor is debilitating in and of itself. And in a lot of ways, it's so much more than a tremor. There's so many unseen things, those non-motor related symptoms. And it's our job as advocates to teach about the complexities of the disease and how it's almost, as you noted, a snowflake disease. Everyone has a different myriad of symptoms that encompasses their Parkinson's, which just aids in its complexities as we research it. So thank you for highlighting the importance of education about the disease, because like we all, before we were touched with the disease, we didn't know a lot about it, but we knew Michael J. Fox, we knew a tremor, and we kind of knew the quintessential points, but not, the complexities that are often quite debilitating.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if I can volley it right back to you. There needs to be more Delegate Sullivans in the world, because I wanted to highlight some of your achievements as we wrap up our conversation. As you noted, you championed HJR 135, which made World Parkinson's Day here in Virginia for April 11th. As one of our early advocacy works, you met with my father and I. You sponsored our state advocacy day in February of 2025, which was really meaningful, and we hope to do more of that.
Please come back.
We will come back. We will bother your coworkers and have those meetings, and we'll come back.
I look forward to it.
So, you've truly been action oriented related to this disease. What would you share to your colleagues, lawmakers here, Virginia lawmakers who are other state representatives in other states? What would you share with them who might not know a lot about the disease or simply think policy related to the disease is not a priority? What would you share with them?
Well, one thing, another sort of role I have in the General Assembly, I have carried some legislation, and I'm involved in something called the Health Insurance Reform Commission, where we talk about rare diseases and the difficulties of getting attention for rare diseases. What's interesting about Parkinson's is it's not particularly rare. It is, as I suggested earlier, it is the fastest growing neurological disorder in the world, and this is a sort of crass way to say it, but we can't ignore it. Everyone will eventually be touched by it somehow, whether it's a family member or a friend, or even a coworker. It is growing, and we need to find a way to stop that. And a big, huge chunk of that will be education, because education then leads to action on the part of whether it's our localities or our states or our country. The Congress passed last year a bill designed to raise awareness of and fund research in Parkinson's, named after, I'm embarrassed, I'm blanking the congressman's name. I think it's a congressman from Florida.
Jennifer Wexton?
No, Gus Bilirakis.
Bilirakis, thank you, who had a great pleasure of meeting recently. And he joined forces, yes, with Virginia, then Congresswoman Jennifer Wexton, who is a dear friend of Beth and mine, and who, interestingly, was initially diagnosed with Parkinson's. And then it became clear that she has a variant of Parkinson's, I think is a fair way to put it, called PSP. And it's an even more aggressive form of neurological degenerative disease. But this bill passed Congress. The president signed it. And so that's, sort of, again, just a first step, but a very important first step to have our nation's leaders recognize the importance of focus not only of education, not only of research, but of literally our dollars. We need to focus our dollars on finding a cure for Parkinson's. And the news out there is really encouraging. There's a lot going on, but we're not there yet. And so, the answer to your question, I think, is just keep working at it. We got to keep working at it. We keep talking about it. We keep, having to buttonhole legislators. We have to still, talk to people about it at the local level. Power over Parkinson's is such a cool model, helping, Beth and I talk about this all the time. In some ways, you want to get people together who have Parkinson's to support one another, help one another, work together. But then you want to get more people involved who do not have Parkinson's. We need, this can't be just come from the Parkinson's community. It needs to come not only from people who love people with Parkinson's, but people with the sort of civic foresight to realize that these are our friends and neighbors who are who are struggling with this disease and need our help. And that's frankly, that's what, in my view, that's what government and civic duty and service is all about, is helping people who need our help.
Like,
Well, we really want to thank you for your time and all the work you're still continually doing. We send our love again to your wife and the whole family. And we also want to thank you for taking the time today. We always say after the conversation ends today, it just begins in reality, because we need everyone out there to also support the work you're doing in Virginia, but also reach out to your representatives and your congressmen and women, because we need everybody in this fight throughout the country. So I want to just thank you again. And also my co-host, Margaret. It's been an honor to be with you again for another important episode. And this has been another episode of the Parkinson's Policy Podcast, where we advocate together to raise awareness and advance meaningful policy for the Parkinson's community. But with our guest today, I know Margaret will also agree, hope that we are confident that the hope is still out there and great things are coming to everybody's doorsteps throughout the country. So thank you again.
thank you.
Wonderful to be with you. Thank you.